It all happened in the central district of the city of Shandu on the 3rd of November, 2021 year. Everything looked like a real apocalypse, or rather its events have long passed and left the poor guy in a broken yellow car. Things were scattered all over the front seat. The identity card says, Wang Ji was a student at Shandu University and studied at the Faculty of History since the 2020 year. He was a very attractive guy with dark hair, and he was wearing a white t-shirt with jeans and a jacket over it. He was positioned in the car so that he does not have any head injury, so he is still alive. He wiggled his fingers and opened his eyes slightly, looking at what was happening in front of him through the windshield. It's really broken, but you could see the devastation. But the apocalypse is not over yet. His eyes were so blood-colored that they were digging into what was opening in front of his gaze. He is perplexed about what is happening now in front of him, as if he had just woken up from a deep sleep. He decided to turn his head to the left to look out the driver's door window, but the guy saw a disgusting creature. It had gray skin, a torn jaw, and no eyes were visible at all. It looked like instead of eyeballs, he had light bulbs inserted, which gave off a bright red color, and his tongue was falling out of his mouth. The guy's attention switched to the mirror, where he sees even more of these creatures called zombies. The young man shifted his gaze from the mirror, only now he does not understand where he is, because something is wrong. He wonders why he is in this car right now. His hand touches his own face, and in his memories there is only the image of a girl who, according to his assumption, mocks him. But he is quickly distracted after he remembers that this lady would not leave him without a weapon. This is what makes him inspect the interior of the car. There was a sword in the backseat, though it was only blunted. He is surprised that during the apocalypse there are not sharpened weapons. However, this sword is very familiar to him, as if he had already seen it somewhere. He jumps out of the driver's seat with a sharp movement, along with the same door, using it as a shield, because he hears shooting from an old assault rifle. But only the dead have completely different plans, so they head to a place where there are people. The zombie was going to fall on someone, but he didn't have time, because he was shot right in the head, crushing part of his face. These were people who were dressed in special costumes. Most likely, these people were specialized and sent to this area to fight zombies and rescue the inhabitants of the settlement. The leader, most likely, in their group asks Zia Ran to report on the situation that exists at the moment in order to understand what they should do next. As it turned out, they are still carrying out evacuation to rescue civilians in the city, so the whole squad should hold out a little longer. The girl looked battered, most likely due to the fact that she was still a member of this squad that fought zombies. She was blonde with bright blue eyes. Like all police officers, she was wearing their special equipment uniform. One of the participants reported that they are running out of ammo, so soon they will have nothing to fight back with. Their captain really does not like it, because monsters come from nowhere and, most likely, they will only become more. Wang Ji was watching all this from behind the car door, which he himself knocked out to cover himself. He saw the battle of monsters and humans from afar. It remains a mystery to him why the police are wearing their old equipment. The hero most likely came from the future, because he looks at their methods of fighting zombies, which may already be outdated in his timeline, as well as the firepower of their weapons is very lame. He thinks about whether to save these people from monsters or not. Sooner or later, these people may die, but there are too many dead to fight with them, and there are probably those who are much stronger than the hero himself. Due to the lack of a normal weapon, he will have a hard time. At this time, the first person already ran out of ammunition to resist these vile creatures. The captain calls Zia Ran again, who reports that the evacuation has been completed and all city residents will be sent to a peaceful place where they will not be touched by zombies. In this case, the order was given quickly and without a second thought. The girl had to provide support with her pistols, and the others had to get their knives and chop meat. It was a call that these creatures should be killed to a single one. They all rushed into the attack with knives, and those who still had bullets continued firing at the risen corpses. But no matter how much they tried to attack these reptiles, they did not become less from the word at all. Zia Ran has the last bullet left, but as many as 4 zombies are moving towards her, and one is less than 4, so the hope that she can cope is gone. Due to the fact that she cannot and does not want to get infected, she puts the muzzle of a gun to her temple. Tears welled up in her eyes, and in her thoughts were pleas for forgiveness to her mother and father. Only now, from the side of the blockage of cars, some strange sound was heard, which distracted the whole dead company to itself. Jan is worried that this person didn't back down and started helping her. She considers it an absolutely reckless act. The zombies rushed with all their fury in his direction, and she just screams that he needs to get out. The truth already sees how a handful of monsters are already lying in front of her, who attacked the police squad. Wang Ji ran among them with a sword in his hands, just to cut up their bodies and leave them without a head or any limbs. It was too fast. What appeared before the girl's eyes was unthinkable, because this is the first time she sees such power in a civilian person. Even a fighter from an elite unit can only cope with 3 monsters, provided that he is not infected with anything. And this stranger is fighting several dozen monsters that surround him almost every second. His movements are like lightning, just as fast and just as deadly if you touch. One can only guess who he is and from where he came to this place. His gaze quickly finds a blonde girl who has fallen into a stupor. He understands that she is the only one who survived the battle with these monsters. And while he took a break, he takes one of Tanto's knives from a policeman. With a sharp movement, which no one expected, he strikes this knife directly into the chest of the opponent coming at him, and then cuts open the same chest. This throw was executed too professionally. Zia Ran falls to the asphalt from what is happening in front of his eyes, because to cut such a body into small pieces, is this what kind of super ability a person needs to possess? He easily throws the phrase that these are some weak and apparently have just become these gloomy creatures. This is what surprises the girl even more. Wang Ji introduces himself to her as a cleaner of the World Organization of the Evolved, an agent with the number 5479. He has just completed an emergency rescue mission, so he asks for the necessary support and information. Although Zia Ran does not understand at all what this guy who appeared out of nowhere is talking about. He's too weird and unusual for what's going on, and his manner of speech, behavior and skills directly shout about it. There is disarray everywhere. Somewhere the bodies of policemen who died in the battle with zombies are lying around, and somewhere the zombies themselves. Zia Ran grabbed the youth's hand, thanking him for saving her. However, she does not understand what is meant by the word support in his speech. For him, her behavior does not fit at all with what he is used to in his world. The girl only shows her police ID. Zia Ran is a senior lieutenant and is also assigned to the Central District of Shangdu City. Wang Jia again notices that this officer's certificate is not used at all, noting that a long time ago, and the uniform of the policeman on it is clearly different from what he used to see in his time. The zombies he defeated were an ordinary wandering class that had only just contracted this virus, as in the early days of the apocalypse. And it remains only to check what year, month and date it is now. Zaijian suspiciously mentions that it is now the 3rd of November, 2021st year. Wang Jia is aware of the whole problem, because he has gone back in time 10 years ago, at the very beginning of the apocalypse, the actual transition from the old era to a completely new one for humanity. It was on this day that 12 meteorites, which people called destroyer meteorites, fell in different places all over the planet. And after their fall, a virus spread across the Earth, infecting and turning more than 50% of the population into these monstrous monsters. Only now, due to the unfavorable environment, he soon fell into suspended animation. But after that, extraterrestrial technologies appeared, which will create a number of zones of evolution, inside of which there are crystals. And it is thanks to them that humanity will be allowed to evolve. Wang Ji is the old man who was able to evolve by touching the crystal. And then all the events that happened to him and how he got here reach him. Unlike the others who got their abilities, he became stronger only physically. This allowed him to resist the era of monsters with the name Age of Destruction until his death. That explains everything. His superpower appeared at the time of his death, which is why he was thrown back for a good 10 years ago. He feels that his abilities that were with him in the future have also been preserved with him. He is thinking about an important task that needed to be done, but he is distracted by Zia Ran, who points to a kind of northern lights over the city. This light only intensified, and compared to the aurora borealis, it was very strong and bright. How beautiful it was! It would be much better if nothing terrible happened. The death of comrades, the appearance of freaks that attack civilians. And this is the zone of evolution. That's what this radiance means. There are 7 such zones on Earth, and there is one in East Asia, in the northern part of the city of Shandu, preparing to fall on it. Zia Ran, when addressing herself, notices that she is a senior lieutenant of the Shandu Military District, a second-year student of the Shandu Military Academy of National Defense. This is exactly how the acquaintance with Wang Ji happens, because he also introduces himself as a second-year student of the History Department of Shangdu University. And this causes confusion in the policeman, because he is a student of the humanities and has such incredible strength. That is why she demands a student ID card from him, with the help of which it was possible to verify the truthfulness of his identity. She directly holds out her hand to him so that he can see her serious intention to find out who he is and why he came here, because they have already evacuated all civilians. and Wang Ji forgot to pick it up when he went to attack the zombies. In Wang Ji's mind, it does not fit that this is a student, and when he indirectly refuses to show her his ticket, he drills him with a look of disbelief, and the guest from the future feels it. Zia Ran reflects that it's rare to meet a sophomore who drives a car. Yes, and also asking for support when he himself has a weapon in the form of a sword behind his back. She points to him as having revealed him. The policeman tells him head on that no guy is a student, and he only explains that now it's not even a matter of whether he is a student or not. That at the moment, because of the situation, this student card does not matter. But she stands her ground that this is a high-ranking military man who arrived on the territory of the city to carry out a secret mission, so he needs to hide his identity behind some kind of sophomore student. He does not find a better solution: how to show that he is still a student and not a military man. Now in the hands of the girl there is a little book with the inscription Student ID, and in the information it is written in black and white that this is the very second-year student at the History Department of Shandu University. There is an incomprehensible mess in her head because of such a discrepancy of facts, so she stupidly looks at this student ID card, trying to figure out what the catch is. Wang Ji only snatches his thing out of the policeman's hands, saying that time is not rubber and it is getting smaller and smaller by the second, so we must hurry. They need to get out of this city as soon as possible. He asks about whether there was a vehicle in which Zia Ran's squad arrived at this place. She replies that she is in the car, showing him her, and he with impudence, but not with anger, takes and sits down, slamming the door right in the face of the owner. She is terribly dissatisfied with this, because literally her car is almost stolen so carelessly. Wang Yi only explains that it will be dangerous in the part of the city where he is going, so she should go to shelter with the rest of the people who were evacuated from this part of the area. The path will be safe, because all the zombies that were here have been neutralized and killed. She just continues to wonder at his behavior, because why would an ordinary student go to the northern district, where infection with this unknown disease began? He can only be an officer above her in rank, otherwise Zia cannot explain his behavior in any way. She has to make a little trick, as she thinks, hinting to him that he is an ordinary citizen of the city, so she, as a police officer, is obliged to protect civilians. Therefore, she should make sure that nothing happens to him. But he just closes the window and says goodbye. She just begs him to wait. But then he opens the window and asks about how to control the car in which he is now. He had forgotten how to drive old cars so much that he didn't even remember the bases. So also this car is different from a regular passenger car. And she keeps going over the scenario that he has a higher military rank, so he does not need to drive a car on his own. As soon as she turns her head in his direction, she immediately notices how he is brazenly staring at her with some kind of study. This leads her into a certain state of misunderstanding of what is happening. And so Wang Ji orders Zia Ran to stop, and then changes places with her, sitting in the driver's seat. She said that he also said that he did not know how to drive a car, to which he stated that after watching her, he learned everything. She just sat in the next seat, thinking about how stupid she was, since she was imagining all this for herself. He presses on the gas, starting to masterfully drive this car. Now she again has suspicions that this is not an ordinary student, but someone from the top of the military, because even a driver with 30 years of experience will not drive this car like that. He invites her to get acquainted with the new world that has come with the advent of zombies. Police officer Zia Ran goes through the bullets that were in the magazine of her gun. But this is not enough to defeat all the zombies they may encounter. She even thinks about the possibility of breaking through to the car with ammunition. While they were driving this car, they knocked down zombies along the way, which then quickly died from such a blow. And because of another such collision, the car drove right over the corpse, which caused the car to jump slightly as if on bumps. And the girl almost dropped the magazine of her pistol along with the bullets that were in it. Wang Ji warns that she should be on her guard, because the northern district of the city has suffered much more from this infection. And with every meter it becomes more and more dangerous. Because of her past arguments about Wang Yi as an undercover agent, she almost calls him Mr., although then she quickly corrects herself and calls him just a student of Wang. However, it remains a mystery to her why he is heading towards the northern part of the city of Shandu. Zia asks this question directly and touches on the topic of relatives and relatives. But all that the guest from the future answers her is that he has no one left. Zia Ran's face darkens at this statement. But then she tells us that their original goal was to go on a reconnaissance mission in the northern region, where everything began. But suddenly the squad came across a group of zombies that surrounded people, so it was in their interests to change priorities and save citizens. This Aurora Borealis appeared 2 hours after the appearance of the zombies, which is why they were sent to investigate. because as soon as this incomprehensible green light appeared in East Asia, it immediately became clear that something was wrong in this place. Wang Ji notices for himself that this radiance is one of the signs that the zone of evolution is about to open. We learn that in his previous life, as he puts it, he missed the nearest zone of evolution, so this time he needs to definitely use the chance to get the crystal. And that's why he asks such a question as, how long does Senior Lieutenant Ziaran have? And the time is only 10 minutes to 5 in the evening. Despite the absence of a signal in this zone, the time that her phone shows is quite accurate. But Wang breaks out because he has too little time to get to the evolution zone, as he remembers from the history that he passed in his future on the 3rd of November 2021 at exactly 5 in the evening. The first of such zones was activated, after which a barrier was created within a radius of 10 kilometers from it, through which it would be impossible to pass. And this will happen in just 10 minutes, so the best solution would be to turn around and go there at the speed that a police car is capable of. That's exactly what the guy is up to. The girl did not understand at all what was going on and what this civilian was doing. They needed to accelerate to such a speed to cover 10 kilometers in just 10 minutes. But do not forget that there are a lot of ruins and remnants of broken road signs, cars and others on the road. But there may also be zombies, which Ziaran notices, pointing ahead to the road. She says that if they encounter zombies, their speed will decrease significantly. Wang Ji suggests using a machine gun, after asking if this vehicle is equipped with such weapons. Of course, at first Ziaran does not immediately get his idea, so she honestly answers that the machine gun is present on the roof of the car, and then realizes that she will have to drive while he fights off monsters that move across the road area. And now a guest from the future is already shooting these interfering targets on the road right to shreds. The policeman is glad that they didn't hit a single zombie, but just continued to go their own way. And then the young man shouts at her not to turn the steering wheel and not to turn anywhere, just press the gas to the floor. But a turn appears before her review, so that would be a problem. But she decides to carry out the assignment that was given to her without even once protesting. At this time, the radiance has already dispersed very much, so I covered part of it with my light. The car falls down right on the sand, which came from I don't understand where. As soon as the lieutenant gets out of the car, clearing his throat, he is perplexed by what is happening. Has the city turned into sand? What's happening? And at this time, the guy is glad that they had time and looks in the direction in which the policeman soon turns. A landscape opened up in front of them, where the Sphinx itself and a pyramid from Egypt itself stand next to residential buildings. Of course, what is happening at the moment does not suit the girl at all, but she is told to listen carefully. The Intelligent Civilization Protection Program has been activated, which means that the zone of evolution has been formed. The chosen territory for the preservation of evolution is Egypt. This all implied the transformation of the environment, which was only 45%. The guardian of the evolution crystals in this territory is the guardian of the Sphinx. It is not for nothing that he was chosen as a guardian, because his purpose was just to preserve the tomb of the pharaoh and the secrets that were hidden. And now he's also guarding the crystals. Survival advice is easy enough to understand the character of God. And in order for the zone of evolution to disappear, it is worth absorbing the crystal of evolution. Wang Ji says that this voice is transmitted to the brain of every person, and as one could hear, the zone created by an unknown force allows a person to get the crystals of evolution, after passing the test in isolation from the whole world. And Ziaran gives out 3 ways to get out of here. The first way is to defeat the Guardian. The second, a certain number of people must be within 5 meters of the evolution crystal. And the last, third way, a certain number of survivors must remain in the zone. The guy only confirms, so the fulfillment of any of the conditions will lead to the disappearance of the zone. Otherwise they are all here forever. The rules could only be learned from the survivors in the evolution zone, so the chances, according to Wu Wang, he has much more. He wants to become exactly the same trump card of humanity as the first ones that were called the first generation. At this time, other people who didn't even know they were coming here were completely dissatisfied with what they heard. They are more worried about their families who are already in the city center, and someone wanted to get a superpower for himself, so he asked about where it could be obtained. Still others expressed themselves very negatively, saying that since he was so strong and closed them here, it means he could just kill all the zombies so that humanity would be fine. Suddenly a bus leaves, which jumps out between the buildings. There were as many as 3 zombies on the windshield, which clearly attacked the minibus. But it's worth looking from the side, as there are only more zombies that have clung to it. And so the driver presses the brake pedal, and then crashes into the barrier, which does not allow you to get out of the zone. The driver is clearly very scared as to why this led to such an accident. He is already screaming for help and rescue, and he warns that he is not alone there, but there are still those who survived. Zia Ran reacts quickly to that, so she calls student Wang, and he in turn understands. That's why she says that they will save, and for this she needs to give her all. They head to the bus while being watched by the guardian of this zone named Sphinx. His eyes seem to be fixed on their backs and follow them while they run to save people who are on the bus and in danger. The bus driver obviously suffered a lot from hitting the barrier wall, and through the broken part of the roof of the transport, you can easily notice his body, which was subjected to a very strong impact, and most likely, the driver has already managed to die from such a collision and squeezing him on one side of the windshield, and on the other separating the wall of passengers from the driver. There were 4 schoolgirls in the bus itself, who pushed one of them forward at the oncoming zombie. One of them was a blonde girl with bangs and a ponytail, the second girl wore glasses, was plump, and the third looked very scared and had a color similar to a metallic sheen, and the fourth girl, Ju Yu, had rather large eyes and a crimson copper hair color. Ju Yu was ordered to fight this creature while the others just covered themselves with briefcases and trembled. The blonde, apparently the most important in this company, just touches on the topic that this girl, that they pushed forward to fight zombies, comes from the village. She also accuses her of bringing everyone to this place because of you, so she has to kill the dead man. In the hands of Ju Yu is a stick, which she pushes to the mouth of the zombie, and then pushes it away from herself and the girls forward. She asks for help to push this monster further to escape through the central door of the bus. They are leaning on this stick with all their might at the request of the girl, and so they have already succeeded. Only now the main girl just screams that she should get out of this bus first, although another zombie appears in the doorway. At first she gets scared and doesn't know what to do, after which she grabs her hands right into the hand of this monster, and she has enough strength that she possessed to push her away to her friends. So she quickly jumps out of the bus and runs to the side against the bus, or rather to the side where the Sphinx was located before, who was watching what was happening in this area. At this time, the girls' offensive was interrupted, because they were first pushed by another zombie, and then the second one that attacked them first tore his jaw so he could easily attack further, and now they are trapped again. Fortunately, they are saved by Wang Ji, who breaks through the roofs of the bus and kills first one zombie, who almost attacked the girl who stood steadfastly in front of the zombie, and then evades the attacks and cuts off the head of the second one who wanted to attack him. Ju Yu admires and at the same time is surprised at how he easily prevented the attack of zombies and their death, because this person is incredibly strong in her understanding. Ban notices that he has already seen her face somewhere, so he stares at her sideways and tries to remember her facial features. Just as the schoolgirl wanted to thank him and introduce herself, she was interrupted by the voice of Zia Ran, who says that there are no zombies around the bus and everything is quiet enough outside. The guy says that everything is quiet inside the bus now, too. Ju Yu remembers the name of his savior. The policeman imagines that she is from the Shandu military district and again says that she is a senior lieutenant, and because of her specialty asks the girls to follow her, because it is dangerous in this place, and her goal from the very beginning was to protect citizens. The girl with glasses thanks and agrees to go with them, but the girl who hung the briefcase on her shoulders notices the absence of the blonde, their friend, who had already escaped from the bus when they confronted the zombies. Both students understand with horror in their eyes that things are bad, so they look through the central exit from the bus, through which she was able to get out. The one who put her friends in danger is running through the sand, and despair is on her face, as well as the fact that she is clearly tired of running through the sand. No one would want to die at that age. Only now she couldn't escape anyway, because the Sphinx's paw was right above her and then crushed her. The Sphinx was clearly angry, as can be seen from the bright red eyes that burned at him. Zhao Yao died. Why did all the schoolgirls, except for Ju Yu, start to panic? Zia Ran notices that the Sphinx is looking at them when it comes closer to the edge of the exit from the bus, and at this time Wang Ji seems to be shaking. A terrible face with a grimace of malice, as well as blood-red eyes only made the picture even scarier. It seemed that they had just escaped, but now they are in danger again. They can be crushed at any second, just like the girl who ran away. The Sphinx glares at them, because he has already come very close to the bus, and then howls that almost everyone has ears for the volume of the scream. Wang Jian, as usual, is trying to assess the situation in which they find themselves, and what to do with a new problem that has suddenly arisen. The guest from the future understands that this is the same guardian called Loner, which is the most dangerous guardian among others. One of the girls is panicking that they will be crushed like cakes along with this bus, and the second hid behind the bus seats altogether. But Wang Ji understood everything, so he ordered everyone to take a book and sit down in their seats, starting to read these books. Lieutenant Xia doesn't understand the train of thought, so she reacts with a bunch of questions on her face, although she should have gotten used to it for a long time, but still fulfills the guy's request. Still, she trusts him and is ready to rely on him. He saved her life and also looks very heroic in her eyes. The Sphinx cuts through the roof of the bus with its sand claw to look inside to see what those who violate its order are doing. Everyone is trying to read intently, although their bodies are still trembling, and cold sweat and goosebumps are running over their skin, while the furious gaze of the keeper of the zone of evolution, which does not bode well and positive, is glaring at them. At this time, other people who notice the movement of the Sphinx to the bus are looking at them from a distant angle. They are only squeamish about the fact that they allegedly wanted to be heroic, and now they will die so stupidly that they would become corpses in a matter of moments. The Sphinx itself is pressed to the ground to see all five inside the public transport. Once the guardian's eyes realize that everyone who is on this bus is reading, he quickly leaves them, and the sound of his walking is still audible for several kilometers. The sand only rises from his movements when he leaves this place and returns to his own. Everyone who watched the situation was shocked, to put it mildly, when they looked at this incident, that they were not crushed like the girl who ran for safety. Someone even looked through binoculars to see what was happening out of reach. When Wang Ji gives the order that the books can be put away, Xia Ran immediately looks in the window, and then admires the young man, and also interrogates him about what is happening and why he left, leaving them when he noticed that they were reading. He explains that this is all thanks to the advice that was voiced during the explanation about the zone of evolution in which they are located. Chiu Yu recalls this advice that one should understand the character of God. As it turned out, the officer just forgot about it, so she didn't even immediately understand what to do in the situation, and why Wang Ji offered to read books to them. God is a statue of the Sphinx, so it is his character that needs to be understood. And Wang Ji asks her a leading question about what comes to mind first when they talk about the statue of the Sphinx. From the myths of the ancient Egyptians, the Sphinx asked everyone a riddle: who walks in the morning, on 4 legs, in the afternoon, on 2, and at night, on 3. Those who could not answer, then mercilessly killed. Xia Ran is trying to understand what is the logic of judgments on which this maneuver with the Sphinx is based just now. She still hasn't figured out what all this means, so Ju Yu continues the Egyptian story that she started. After all, in the end, the sage guessed the answer, and the Sphinx fell off the cliff and died. This leads to the conclusion that the character of God is respect and fear for those who possess knowledge and wisdom by people, and the best way to demonstrate their knowledge is to read a book. Then Wang Ji looks at the book he was holding in his hand and reading. His realization was that they could easily cope without his help. He realized where he had seen this girl that looked very familiar to him. Ju Yu introduced herself to him and informed him that she was a student of the second high school of Shangdu. She thanked them again for saving them from zombies and the Sphinx. He tells her that he is also from the same school where she is studying now. Or rather, I have already studied. What is in his head now is that she is a celebrity in his future, because she is from among the first generation that got the crystal of evolution. She's the one they call the Storm Queen. Having gained the ability, she was able to control the weather and create cataclysms. He is also one of the most influential people in China. She controls several elements at once, which is why she became famous all over the world. Ju Yu King became like this in the future because the crystal that guards the Sphinx is one of the strongest. Now he has every chance to get it. But he does not think about the fact that this can change the future, because it is not she who will take this crystal of evolution, but he, who is not from this time at all. Ju Yu starts calling him senior, and he reflects on the shape, and is even glad that the blue and white shape was changed to such tones, because it looks good. Xia Ran coughs and draws her to him, reminding them that they need to find a way to deal with the Sphinx. But Wang Ji flatly denies her assumption, and advice with reading books can only help with survival. But if they try to take the crystal, it will definitely attack them and kill them. And surveillance has begun on them, so they can also become victims at any moment, who will die by human hands. There is no safe place left for them to escape and be safe for a while. They will have to survive properly. It was already getting dark, so the officer offers to spend the night on this bus, because there is no electricity on the streets to understand which way they need to go. But Wang Yi is adamant, so he says they need to get out. There is too much blood in this place, so soon monsters will come running to this smell. And there is absolutely no food here, so it will be problematic to restore strength with one sleep. And they are already in the sights of some people who decided to reduce the number of people just to get out of here. But this is one of the most effective ways. It's easier than killing a guardian or picking up a crystal that is so guarded by a guardian. This makes them start to worry. Wang Ji suggests that they either follow him or leave here alone. Already in the dark, they go to the shop in the desert, thanks to the sand of which the smell of zombies is unlikely to be smelled, so they will be safe for a while. Zia Ran suggests going to the supermarket, where there will be more choice of food and other useful things, but the understanding that there will be a lot of people and a lot of zombies ready to attack them at any moment reverberates in the guy's head. Moreover, if they are already in the sights of some who are hunting for their heads, just to survive. And if zombies get caught, they will definitely catch them, because this is already a group of people who are not fully armed. Although the shop will not be large, but there should be enough resources for the 5 of them. The most important thing is that the building in which the store is located is intact, because it is located inside a residential building. The room itself is equipped with 2 exits, in which case, escape will be a trivial matter. There are also no panoramic windows in it, so that no one knows who did not look and follow them. And also, in an emergency situation, they can lower the shutters so that the zombies do not find them, and the thugs could not see them. Ju Yu praises the elder for being not only strong and agile, but also very smart. She notices that he can handle 2 zombies at the same time. And Zia Ran just laughs and tells a story about how she met him when he fought against about 50 zombies. They continue to praise him, and he is only dissatisfied with the fact that all his lectures on survival have been ignored. While he's teaching them how to survive in this world, they keep talking about how cool he is. But sensing something was wrong, he stopped, followed by all his companions. The policeman says that they need to go further, because the store itself, where they were going, is right in front of him. But the guest from the future stops this request. He feels that something is wrong with the place where they were going, or rather with the place in front of them. The young man asks them not to lean out in front of him, so as not to break firewood. He himself seems to be listening to the sounds that an empty street makes. He hears some kind of creature that is hiding and waiting for its prey. Wang Ji approaches the car, and then looks at it, ordering the one who hid under it to get out. Abruptly, the car rises up. A hefty zombie got out of there, which defies any description, because the ones they are used to are completely different. This titan was huge, and also very strong unlike his fellows. Zia Ran took out a gun and aimed it directly at this creature, and Ju Yu prepared her beam with which she fought zombies on the bus. But their readiness to attack this creature is interrupted by Wang Ji, who asks Lieutenant Zia to save the cartridges, because they are useless against this monster. And this monster looks tough enough. The zombie throws the car towards the guy, but he manages to evade the attack. And after the car crashes into one of the buildings nearby, a noise is created that can attract even more zombies. The young man tells his companions to be careful. Ji assumes at first that he is mutated, but realizes that this monster is not like that at all. When fighting with him, it remains only to dodge the attacks that he inflicts. The girls worry about him, calling his name, hoping that he is safe when the zombie hits the car straight. But fortunately, their hero remains unharmed, because he managed to bounce back. He finds himself on another car and calls this monster to him. Wang Ji even shows a sign that is used in battles to attack. And now this giant hits the car again, and at this time the guy bounces further. He seems to be teasing him, saying that he misses. Zia Ran is worried about him, because if this giant is easily capable of hitting a car to a critical state, then what will happen if Wang Ji finally gets caught? And she's worried that he's only dodging attacks, and he's not doing anything with the monster. And now he finally finds himself trapped between the wall and the monster that was chasing him and trying to kill him. And now, what will happen? The police officer is very worried about him, because she managed to get attached in such a short time in such a situation, because he became her hope for survival. The monster was about to attack Wang Ji, who was just standing on a car that was located against the wall. But the sight of a zombie and its approaching end, if possible, does not frighten him, because he takes and cuts off one of the hands of this monster. Zia Ran is surprised that he finally attacked and cut off his arm, but she still doesn't understand why he didn't attack earlier in order to defeat this titan faster. The guy starts looking at the sword and standing still, and the monster is still alive, so do not waste time. The zombie screams either because of the severed hand or out of anger at Wang Ji, who cut it off. This time, the monster rushes ahead with all the speed that this mutated one is capable of. And now, when he is already next to a guest from the future, the young man gets into a special pose, thanks to which he attacks the attacking opponent. It was Iaido, the art of a surprise attack or counterattack using a Japanese sword. And only the giant wants to turn his head towards the hero, as his head almost explodes from the blow that was inflicted on him. Now this body is lying on the sand without a drop of life. At this time, something magical rises to the young man, something very strange right out of the zombie's body. But then it all seems to be approaching the crystal of power. When these magic lines got close to the crystal, the fatigue passed, and he himself became stronger in feeling. And if with such a pace of battle with zombies, he will gain strength, then within a year he will be able to increase his level from D to C. Zia ran and Juyu ran towards the young man who had just finished the battle with the monster. He scared them almost to death. They were worried that he would have a tough fight in which he would not be able to win. And he could easily kill him, though not immediately. The schoolgirl is just asking this question. Why didn't he kill the zombie right away? And here is another story about how to survive from their teacher Wang Ji. But first they should have examined the body that was lying on the sand. The girls with glasses and hair the color of a metal sheen were disgusted by the image they saw as soon as they approached this carcass. Even Zia Ran herself was disgusted by the sight of a headless zombie. Even if she is part of the police, it was hard for her to see this creature with its head cut off. And the schoolgirl is also scared, although she understands that you need to know the enemy in person. Wang Ji notes that even if Zia Ran devoted herself to service, she still feels uncomfortable from such events. But only here is Juyu worthy of becoming the leader of China, because she was able to overcome her instincts and look into the eyes of her fear. And so that she would not be too scared, he takes her by the hand and says that he will look at this body with her. She clearly doesn't expect it, but she follows him anyway. The young man squatted down in front of the corpse, and Juyu only bent over him. Zia Ran is still scared to approach. They see the bones that covered the zombie's body, which later became an exoskeleton. It defies any logic, because in just one day his body changed. But it has not only changed, but also strengthened due to such changes in the structure of the body. The schoolgirl is afraid that it has become very durable, as if it were not a body but metal. And that was one of the reasons why the history student said that bullets would be useless against this monster. And similarly, if he waved the sword thoughtlessly, then in all cases the sword would break. But while he was bouncing off attacks, he was also analyzing and looking for vulnerable points. That's why he hit the joints, first depriving him of his arm, and then cutting his head. Zia Ran concludes that it is necessary to quickly report the new phenomenon to the headquarters, but the guy stops her, because first they need to get out of here. Due to the fact that he killed this huge zombie, which was the strongest in the area, other zombies will soon come, albeit weaker. Therefore, they should take cover as soon as possible. Already at night, the zombies were pacing calmly around this area, not afraid that they would get caught by that big guy. And the company of 5 people was sitting in their shelter, which they planned to get into. They even closed the metal door so that no one could get to them without their knowledge. They don't have many candles, so they should save them. Now they have lit one that will last for about an hour, which is why you need to cook dinner and eat faster to save candles. First of all, products with a short shelf life should be eaten, and only then canned food, cookies and energy bars, because they have a long shelf life. And there is also a gas cylinder in the next room, so you can safely cook something. Zia Ran sends Wang Ji to rest and asks him to leave the cooking on them with Juyu. He doesn't really go to rest, even asks if they've ever cooked before. But the schoolgirl replies that everything is fine and he just needs to rest and not help them with cooking dinner. The young man gives up, so he goes to rest. When part of the candle had already burned out, the girls called everyone to the table because dinner was ready. The young man notices that he looks very appetizing. And when he tastes a part, then literally luxury from his time is immediately recalled in his head. Yu worries that he didn't like it, but he just says that it's excellent and you shouldn't pay attention to his emotions now. In the future, this luxury will become more expensive than gold, and will also be the most valuable commodity of the Chinese black market. He understands that he hasn't eaten this for about 10 years. Zia Ran wonders why he only eats vegetables, because meat will help restore strength better. But he only says that he just loves vegetables, and they themselves need to eat more to gain strength. In the future, after the apocalypse, people will give priority to proteins and carbohydrates, so fresh vegetables are almost impossible to get, and getting the necessary vitamins from pills is simply unbearable. Wang Ji continues to admire him because he protects them, and also, in her opinion, pretends to like vegetables in order to leave meat to them. She is even ready to cry from his kindness. Juyu notices that she is already really crying, so she is surprised and thinks that it is because of the very delicious food that they have turned out. Finally, the candle is already burning out. He suggests washing the dishes tomorrow so as not to waste extra candles. And also in this shop there were several blankets that they can use for sleeping. He says he will go to sleep in another corner of the store, and the girls should sleep there. Ziaran says that it won't be a big deal if he stays with them, and they want to ask about a lot of things that they have accumulated during their time with him. They want to know more about his power and about the infected. He just exhales because he has no choice. With the stage of evolution, everything can be divided into 5 classes. It's the same with zombies, stray, mutated, frightening, disasters, and catastrophes. Rare species may also occur among them. The most numerous class is vagrants. They have practically no changes, but over time, they increase in size, and hands, teeth become like claws and fangs, and speed and strength increase. The big guy they met is a rare species found only in sandy areas. The appearance of rare species causes infected of the same class to avoid this place. Ziaran worries whether people will be able to survive in this situation at all. Wang Yi says it's hard, but there's some good news. Already early in the morning, they got up and headed across the desert with weapons in their hands, a sword from a history student, a knife from a military student, and a beam that was left in the hands of a schoolgirl when they collided with zombies on the bus. But what was the good news that Wang Yi was talking about last night? As he mentioned earlier, he also evolved when he fought this monster, and the girls themselves can also evolve if they fight and gain experience. Ordinary people have a hard time in such a world, as they might have noticed. That is why Wang Yi suggests that they go to the crystal tomorrow morning, and they can also practice fighting zombies to improve their combat skills. Ziaran and Juyu are surprised by this proposal, but the other 2 girls do not want to fight at all, because they see this as a serious danger. A guest from the future allows them to stay here, although he understands that he did not plan to work with them somehow, so he constantly forgets about them. And so they walk through the sand, and then they notice a zombie coming. He has a fairly athletic build. The guy won't let them go his way because he's too big for their beginner level. He's going to deal with it himself. He dealt with this zombie with 1 blow to the head. Although he wasn't as strong as the last monster he killed, he still posed a certain danger. And the girls still continue to admire the strength of Wang Yi, who once again defeated the terrible creature. In the front, the young man noticed 2 weak wandering zombies, so he leaves them on Ziaran and Juyu. Ziaran, as a true student of the military specialty, was already determined to attack. But the attitude of Weakling is alarming Wang Yi. He assumes that this is either because of his concern, or because she is still just a high school student. Although he quickly dismisses this because in the future she has become one of the leaders of China. He approaches her and says that she should attack now until the zombies have adapted to the sunlight, which is why they are weakened for a while, and he will be there to shield them from serious danger so that no one harms them. The girl looks at the one and then quickly says that she will definitely try. She reflects that her eldest will become one of the leaders in this apocalypse, and she can't back down now, otherwise she won't deserve the right to even stand next to him. And now the zombies are coming. One of them attacked a policeman. He looks strong in build, but he himself is not. Ziaran deftly copes with one of them with the help of techniques that are taught at universities in the specialty of a policeman. First, blocking the zombie's blow, and then putting his hands behind his back to immobilize and drop him to the ground. She quickly inserts a knife into his head so that he will finally rest, and not just wander around in the human world. The schoolgirl is being attacked by a skinny zombie, who sometimes even wobbles very much from side to side, but he is still more aggressive than the one Ziaran coped with. He attacks stupidly enough, just as if he was going to grab, but he misses, because the schoolgirl easily evades this. This is repeated once more before she is about to attack him, and then she punches his head with a beam that was in her hands. She pierces through the head of a ruthless but weak zombie. This beam is like a good luck charm that will help against such disgusting freaks. An infected person falls already dead for sure. Wang Yi approaches her from behind and says that he actually understands how she feels, because he also killed a monster for the first time. She feels as if she took someone's life, because yesterday these walking dead were real, and even average people, just like them. This is quite a strong pressure it turns out she had when she was fighting zombies. Still, even if she will be the top of China in the future, now she is still a child who cannot yet properly comprehend everything that is happening at the moment. The young man puts his hand on the top of her head and ruffles her hair, praising her for her good work, because she did everything right. She is embarrassed by this action. He instructs her that now is not the time to regret something, especially about some zombies. And it's finally dawn, and they need to move on. The policeman suggests climbing onto the roof of some tall building to observe the situation here, and the young man finds a building that is perfect for such a case. It is quite damaged, but few people will climb on it, because there will be a fear that it will fall apart or something else will happen to it. Therefore, no one will come there to trap them and try to kill them. Ziaran also wonders why they didn't head to an office building that wasn't too far away and taller than this. Wang Ji explained that there would be people in the office anyway who thought like her, and therefore also zombies along with them who would want to attack them. If they only encounter a couple here, then they would have to wade through hundreds of such monsters there. Wang Ji asks the lieutenant to look through binoculars in one of the directions where the bus was, from which they left at night. It was burned to the ground. Ju Yu recalls his elder's theory that they were hunted, and a guest from the future notices that these are very hot-tempered people who decided to burn the bus just to kill those who were there. Fortunately, they obeyed the young man and left there to find a new shelter. True, they do not know who can hunt them. Only now the hero says that they will find out soon, pointing to the movement in the sand towards the pyramid and the Sphinx. A group of moving radicals are trying to get hold of the crystal. The crystal begins to glow very brightly right at the top of the pyramid, because that's where the crystal is located, which is guarded by the Sphinx itself. It is not for nothing that the pyramids in Egypt serve as tombs and treasuries, which are guarded by the beast. A man is lying unconscious, and the girls who were previously in the group of Wang Ji, Ziaran and Ju Yu looked at this light as if hypnotized. This light and the crystal of evolution inside the young man resonate with each other, although this has never happened before. At this time, the group, as they were called, the radicals, were moving on their bikes to attack, causing huge sand clouds in the air to get the evolution crystal. They even laugh at the keeper of this zone, because he did not move while they were driving at breakneck speed to the pyramid. Their assumption of this behavior of the Sphinx was that the god of this zone is on their side. And as soon as the boss of this group receives the evolution crystal, he plans to take control of the whole world. Ziaran understands that this crystal should not fall into the hands of these idiots, who clearly pursue only selfish plans, and not to save all mankind. For why should they sacrifice such a huge number of people? She needed to act as soon as possible, but they were so far away that she didn't know what could be done to prevent her from getting the evolution crystal. They need to start acting already according to Ziaran. But Wang Ji says they need to wait a little longer. The important words that the guy is voicing are very important, because in a real game where people's lives are at stake, you can never believe in luck. This will be the most wrong decision for someone who believed in his luck and lost his whole life. This is why games on that important part of people's existence are dangerous. The leader of a gang of radicals who decided to get the crystal of evolution in order to rule the world, decides to perform a trick to drive right to the very top. And now he is already in the air. Only now a completely different Sphinx comes out from under the sand, and it seems that there are as many as 2 gods of the zone of evolution. But in fact, the Sphinx, which did absolutely nothing and did not react in any way to the actions of these jerks, is just a sand dummy, which, in order to mislead them. And it was now that the boss of this small gang of bikers was crushed like a mosquito between the paws of a giant guardian. His eyes are glowing red. As soon as one of the bikers was killed, he quickly turned his gaze to his pawns. The Sphinx has clearly transformed during its stay here. If in the beginning he looked like his Egyptian interpretation of the statue, now he looks absolutely similar to his image from myths. If the statue looks like a lion with a human head, then now it looks absolutely like it is represented in the mythology of the sage who was able to overcome this monster. A winged creature with the body of a lion, with the head of a man and the breast of a woman. Although now the chest is more like a bulletproof vest, which shows that it is protected, and is also a defender of the crystal of this zone of evolution. His mouth is full of sharp fangs that can bite through anything, and his facial expression shows that the Sphinx sees his superiority over those who thought they could receive his blessing and get the crystal, due to the fact that they simply will not be able to escape from this Hulk, because he will definitely have time to crush them. The bikers decide to open fire on the keeper of the evolution zone. They shoot guns and throw explosives right in the face. They have good weapons. An explosive that hits the god of the zone right in the face deprives him of part of his face. He is very angry at this action, which violates his order, and he clearly sees the stupidity of those who thought that he would just let them take what the Sphinx guards. Take what he was told to guard. The sand forms a dummy of the Lord again. While everyone started throwing explosives again, the sand at that time restored it completely. The most disgusting thing when fighting with some boss in the game is the lack of vulnerabilities right away. And here's the reality, you still can't tell where he has vulnerable points with which to defeat this Egyptian beast. The Sphinx is completely intact. without a single injury, without a single scratch and a blow to half of the face. Sand is his element, which allows him to recover and really be a real god. Invulnerable, strong, cunning, as befits a real god. He just grins at the fact that they look terribly pathetic in his eyes. Everyone is very surprised that he is immortal. They decide that they should try to get out of this place, because they will not be able to defeat him with ordinary forces. All the bikers jumped on their bikes and headed away from the scene. They believe that they no longer need this crystal. Their own lives are more important to them. But the Sphinx was not going to let them go, so he hit the ground, knocking over these people. Those who watched the incident from the roofs of tall buildings were also very surprised that the Guardian is very strong, although it was clearly understandable by his weight and by the events of the past day. Is it really impossible to defeat him by some means of attack? Xia Ran wants to ask Wang Ji what they would do in such a situation, but notices that he is absent when she turns her head in his direction. Wang Ji is already riding a bike on this sand towards the Sphinx. While everyone is running away, he is on the contrary going towards the attacks. His gaze is full of determination. One of the observers on the roof notices that a guy from the bus is riding there, and the second one calls him an idiot, because he even goes ahead after what he saw. He looks at the pyramid, next to which it would be possible to fly up on the bike, on which he is now. The guest from the future stopped his vehicle and looked into the eyes of this god of the zone of evolution. And the keeper himself noticed this guy who was angry at people. Wang Ji directly provokes him by telling him to stomp towards him and calling him a big cat. This is clearly very much disliked. It is because of this that he runs at full speed straight at the young man who presses on the gas. The two who continue to observe this were in two different reactions. The first one just kept calling him a reckless idiot and also said that he would die. And the second was in direct shock, because Wang Ji thoughtlessly rushes into battle against the one who killed right in front of their eyes who wanted to get the evolution crystal. Xia Ran and Juyu are also watching the events at this time and are worried about their travel companion and rescue against zombies. Still, even though they are only familiar with nothing, but you already understand that he could easily take and throw them at any moment to save himself. It's also hard to watch someone you can't help right now, so the worries only get worse with every movement on the horizon. Only the Sphinx wanted to step on the hero, even spread its wings, as Wang Ji took out a sword and touched it to the ground, avoiding and jumping away with the motorcycle. He slipped under the beast's paws at full speed. The people on the roof are shocked that he didn't die and managed to avoid the attack so skillfully, although who wouldn't be surprised when literally everyone dies under attack, because they can't evade it. And he takes it so easily and easily not just leaves, but leaves on a motorcycle under him. The god of the zone of evolution is very angry at such a trick. He seems to be howling from his anger at the guest from the future. He doesn't like what Wang Ji has done, which is why he calls his little sand lions, who are much smaller than him. They were formed from sand, which independently gathered into certain shapes. It seems that there are a whole bunch of them, although there are still quite a few of them. 5 or 6 pieces. Juyu notices that the Sphinx can summon clones that are many times faster than himself. People on the roofs notice it too. Someone did not even expect such an ability from the dominant zone of evolution. They even praise him for helping them learn more about the Sphinx, because before that even no one could think about what this guardian of the zone of evolution is capable of. But as they suggest, he will not be destined to survive against such rabid copies of the keeper himself. Wang Ji stops abruptly, turning around to face them directly, and looks straight at these sand creatures that are rushing at him with all their stupidity. Just to it. Many people may think, who is watching all this without binoculars, that he just decided to give up already. But the person who is following him through a useful thing called binoculars sees a different picture. Yu is worried about why he stopped and is not going anywhere to escape from this group of lions. Xia Ran also decided to look through the binoculars she had. She probably understands what he's going to do when they run up very close. Wang Ji rode a motorcycle, touching the sand with his sword while being chased by sand lions. When he stood in front of the animals attacking him, he easily reproduced the pose with which he most often defeated zombies attacking people. And even with the help of this pose, he can easily apply the same attack, thanks to which he crushed the head of a mutated zombie. And the lions are about to attack him. But only they had a great opportunity to tear the insolent man to shreds, as their heads and other body parts were hacked by sword blows. Everyone who watched the events from the roof of the building was shocked about how he managed to cut several animals at once. And who exactly is this hero that survived last time, and right now continues to survive? Xia Ran admires the fact that he made his signature attack on a motorcycle. She did not even suspect that it was possible even so. The top of the pyramid began to shine again, and one of the rays that came from the top allowed the Sphinx to raise its speed level. His roar is very intimidating and very loud. The young man feels some kind of resonance between this light and his crystal. He feels as if some eyes are boring into him, and he finally turns back, noticing how the guardian of the evolution zone, who has spread his wings, runs straight at him without hesitation and with aggression in his eyes. With every jerk he got to the motorcycle, which was already racing at full speed. Now there is a much stronger reason to worry about the fact that Wang Ji so recklessly went against the Sphinx without even thinking about the consequences that could arise. He also did not take into account the level of possible danger that could be in a collision with the Keeper. Wang Ji picks up explosives that were lying on the sand and, most likely, they just lost it while the gangsters were running away, who fancied themselves strongmen and brave personalities. Everyone who continued to watch him from the roof is trying to predict the course of his actions. Everyone is just hoping to finally get out of here. One wonders what he will do with dynamite, which the young man picked up on the way. Still, it's useless against him, because it was tested by other brave souls who imagined themselves winners and blessed by the Sphinx. The second one replies that he doesn't know about it at all, so we just follow them to wait, because every time he just takes and exceeds their expectations. One has only to wait and see what this guest from the future is up to. Wang Ji ignites dynamite. Although the fuse has already burned out a little, why does he have even less time than he could have? And the god of this zone does not even guess about the next step. He grins, because he understands that it's useless against him. He'll recover anyway. But only the boy turned out to be more cunning and threw explosives to the pyramid, undermining the entrance to it. No one expected this, and a grimace of surprised irritation plays on the Sphinx's face. The explosion causes the entrance to the subway to be shown. Without wasting a minute, the young man drives right into this place on a motorcycle, teasing the already very angry guardian of the evolution home. He calls this huge cat again. Apparently he liked to annoy this guardian so much. He himself finally disappeared into the subway tunnel, which he himself noticed. At this time, Xia Ran asks Juyu about whether Wang Ji did not pass anything about the meeting place when he left their small observation shelter. She says she didn't send anything because she was in a hurry. It seems to her that it would be wise to stay here so that when the elder Wang returns, he does not look for them all over the neighborhood. But then she wonders why she needed this information. She explains that if Wang Ji is safe, then you can breathe a sigh of relief only about this. They should consider the next step, because she's still worried about something. Namely, that in the distance from them someone was watching them through a telescope. And they were dressed exactly like those same motorcyclists that they lost to the Sphinx in the dry. Most likely they are the same people who hunt those who were on the bus. After all, it was not for nothing that he was completely burned. They have been watched and watched for a long time to deprive them of their heads, so they are also armed so well. Seeing Wang Ji in action, they will probably want to use it to get their hands on the evolution crystal. And if he does not agree to help them, then they can take them prisoner and threaten him to help them for their protection. Therefore, they should leave before it's too late, and they already have little time with every second. And these gangsters were ordered to get rid of them and return as soon as possible to the place of their base. One of these people ran to the place of the base and told the leader of this group where two of those who were on that bus were. The leader who tossed the coin first, as in the heads and tails game, looks very negative and dissatisfied. Although most likely this is the expression of a malicious face. He had a coin caught by him in his hand, and there was a scar on his face. He is told that these are exactly the ones who were on the bus. He decides to flip a coin to decide what needs to be done, and then sends everyone to grab these girls who were involved in the incident with the bus. Xia Ran and Juyu ran on the sand enough to get tired. The policeman suggests running through the alley, although he understands that there may be zombies there. Against unarmed zombies is much easier than from a group of bandits that are armed from head to toe. And the instruction on the bus that people are now much more dangerous than infected ones was spinning in my head. The lieutenant stops abruptly, telling the girl to stop as well, because they are walking through a rather unfavorable alley. And these sounds strain first Yu, and then Jan, because the gangsters shouted the question of whether there is anyone alive in the area they arrived in. The girls quickly hid and covered their mouths with their hands so as not to make unnecessary sounds. One says that they are definitely on the trail of a police officer and a schoolgirl, and the second reproaches him that they have already lost them and he is supposedly well done. Although, whoever would not be angry, find out that they have lost the purpose of the hunt. The leader says that they obviously couldn't get far from this place because they didn't have any vehicles, so they must be somewhere in this neighborhood. Xia Ran appeals to the schoolgirl that they need to hurry up and get out of this place so that they don't get caught. Juyu asks her what suggestions there are about where they should go. The policeman says that there is an alley further on where they could hide temporarily, and then shows a quiet sign. They are stealthily heading next to the buildings that are lined up in a row. Although there is quite an open space in this place, the girls were walking past buildings that looked like garages and shops, just like the one in which they were hiding at night. Though when they passed by one such building, the door suddenly creaked, although no one touched it. This was also heard by the bikers who were chasing them. Ziaran looks at the schoolgirl with nervousness, and she waves her head, saying that she did not do it. And one of these big guys finds them, pointing to the place where they are. Those, in turn, are very scared, and now I don't know what to do.